understanding of asthma and drugs, which should become available in the near future, which will enable us to both understand the disease and treat the disease better tomorrow than we can today.
My advice to people who are interested in participating in activities that have asthma symptoms is that proper medical help, you can go ahead and be involved in athletics, be involved in physical fitness that will not only enhance your life, but will allow you to reach your full potential.
One of the best parts about doing well in the Olympics is that it lets you give back something to all the people who have helped you get where you are. I've talked to a lot of kids about having asthma since the Olympics, and I explained to them that 62 people on the Olympic team had asthma. There's no reason why they can't accomplish all the goals they want to just because they have a breathing condition.
And early on in my career, they started discovering some things that were a little bit odd, and that is, though I was young, I didn't seem to recover as quickly after workouts, or I didn't feel well, and I found myself often sick.
It is very painful, and they can't breathe. It has to do with your lungs, I think.
People that have it seem to have trouble breathing, and they cough a lot.
But I know that people that have it have a breathing problem.
Close places or dust or something like that, I think, causes them problems.
I've always had a problem with my breathing. I always knew there was sort of something wrong there. But I just thought that, you know, there's a lot of things to make a world-class swimmer. And I always thought that my lungs were the weak link in the chain. And just by not being able to get enough air, I've passed out in practice before. I've sat and gripped the side of the pool and just breathed just as hard as I possibly could.
Children who have asthma can't exercise.
Children outgrow it, don't they?
It keeps people from running hard. They can't do activities very much.
I think that asthma is a psychologically caused disease.
My mother told me about it once, but I kind of forgot what it was about.
At any one time, about 7% of Americans have asthma, and about 2,500 asthmatics per year die in the United States from asthma. It's found most frequently in individuals less than 30, but we find asthmatics of all ages. My name is Michael Kellner. I'm head of the Allergic Diseases section of the National Institutes of Health. One of the diseases we're interested in at the NIH is asthma. Asthma is a disease that afflicts about 17 million Americans. At various times, the condition can range from perfectly normal to life-threatening in any patient. Asthma is obstruction of the airways. What happens during an asthmatic attack is that the airway swells, there's excessive mucus secretion, a muscle spasm, and there's infiltration in the lining of the airway with white blood cells. What I mean by infiltration with white blood cells is the exact same swelling that occurs when you have a splinter and you get redness and swelling around the side of the splinter. The same thing happens in the asthmatic airways. These four factors lead to airway obstruction. Asthma is such a common disease that a fair amount of very good athletes also have asthma.
I think one of the things that I suffered from early on in my career is called exercise-induced asthma. Now, exercise-induced asthma is the sort of thing that gives you the feeling that you're totally out of shape. You can on one day go out and do an incredible workout and feel wonderful, and the next day just have trouble doing anything at all. I'm Jim Ryan, and I suffer from allergies, but I found with proper medical attention and assistance that I'm still able to participate in sports, and in particular my sport of distance running. I think one of the things that is real subtle that happens in a race when you are an allergy asthma sufferer is that often you really can't tell that you're having an attack or that you're having some difficulty, other than you feel as if you're running your hardest and there isn't a sense of rhythm, there isn't a sense of flowing. Fortunately for me, though, it's the kind of thing that is controllable with an inhaler. I know that in using it, I can go into the pollen season and not expect to have exercise-induced asthma. My advice to people who are interested in participating in activities of a physical nature that have allergy asthma symptoms is with proper medical help, you can go ahead and be involved in physical fitness that will not only enhance your life, but will allow you to reach your fullest potential.
You can get the same feeling as an asthmatic gets during an attack by taking a deep breath and holding your breath and then breathing while you're trying to hold in the amount of air you breathed in initially. In a moderate attack, the patient becomes aware of some air hunger, some need to breathe a little bit faster, the feeling of shortness of breath or tightness that he feels inside his chest. People who have severe asthmatic attacks have much the same problems as those with moderate attacks, but of course of a much more severe nature. The reasons for the asthmatic attack vary. About half of the adult asthmatics and about 90% of the children have problems with allergies. There's grass and tree pollens. There's allergens like dust and mold and danders from household pets. About half of the adult asthmatics don't have allergies as a primary cause of their disease. A portion of these patients are sensitive to aspirin. Another becomes asthmatic with food additives. Many individuals can become sensitized to chemicals and irritants in their environment and either develop asthma or worsen an underlying asthmatic condition. We are just now beginning to recognize the kinds of chemicals that can cause asthma and beginning to survey factories and plants where these chemicals exist. There are many myths about asthma. Let's talk about some of them. A lot of people feel that asthma may be a psychological disease. Well, that's simply not true. Asthma is a real disease with known causes and a known pathology. There may be a psychological component to having asthma, that is being upset by having the disease, but it's not a cause of the disease. Parents should not feel guilty about having asthmatic children. Do asthmatic children outgrow their disease? Well, frequently, young asthmatics may have a marked improvement during their teenage years, but we find about half of childhood asthmatics regain their asthma during their 20s and 30s. Does asthma lead to emphysema? The answer is no. Uncomplicated asthma does not cause any destruction of the lungs. It's very rare to have lung damage due to asthma by itself. And finally, should asthmatic children and adults exercise? And the answer is definitely yes. They should exercise in a moderately well-designed program designed to maintain physical fitness. We do not advocate having asthmatic children sit by the sidelines and watch their friends exercise. Instead, we think asthmatics should be actively exercising themselves.
Hi, my name is Nancy Hogshead. In the 1984 Olympic Games, I won 3 gold medals and 1 silver in swimming. After the Games, I found out I had exercise-induced asthma. I've always had a problem with my breathing. I always knew there was sort of something wrong there, but I just thought that my lungs were the weak link in the chain. I've passed out after races before just by not being able to get enough air. I've passed out in practice before. I've sat and gripped the side of the pool and just breathed just as hard as I possibly could. That's all I was thinking about, was just getting enough oxygen. But it didn't really hit me that there could have been something wrong until when I was at the Olympics and I had an asthma attack and I absolutely could not breathe from the last 25 yards in. And it was a real scary thing. I guess the biggest misconception that people have about asthma is that they can't lead an active life and still have it. They think that people who have asthma, or if they have asthma, that these people need to sit at home and stay in their rocking chairs all day. And that's really not true. They can lead as active a life as they want to.
Next to number 1.
Right now I'm a student at Duke University. I have one more year to go. I'm a political science major. And eventually I'd like to go to law school. But in the meantime, I'm just trying to use the positive experience of being in the Olympics and trying to give back something to all the people that gave something to me. I love to go to swim meets and give pointers and try to tell people some of the things that I've learned. And, you know, they really listen and they appreciate it. I went to a doctor and he put me on a treadmill test, and sure enough, I had exercise-induced asthma. I didn't know there was such a disease. This doctor prescribed a bronchodilator for me. And the first time I used it, breathing was no longer a problem, and it really makes me sit back and